Karen Tyner is here. She's a local triathlete and is impressive, and we'll get to all of that. But let's go ahead and say thank you again for your assistance a few years ago. If you remember, Panama City Beach was really leveled by a hurricane. And the IRONMAN group contacted, of course, the city of Haines City, Polk County Sports Marketing, the partnership, and said, hey, we have an idea. And anytime someone calls you and says, hey, we have an idea, uh-oh. But the entire full Ironman was moved to Polk County in less than 3 weeks. It was about 2.5 weeks. And Karen, you were a part of that and the efforts to pull that off. So once again, thank you for that. But you've competed in a number of half Ironmans, which are 70.3, but you've also done some full Ironmans, correct?
I've actually done 2 full ones. Those were in Chattanooga. I didn't get to do the one in Haines City because I just finished Chattanooga, and also I was helping them
Brian
get
Ritchie
it
put you to
together
work,
too.
yeah.
But the Parks and Rec in Haines City and sports marketing, you guys, everybody, it was a miracle. I mean, truly, when they told us they were going to try to move it, and we had to do that in 2 weeks span of time. Volunteers, we need like 2,000 volunteers for that kind of event, and it was pulled off. The community itself came together. The different tri-clubs of the Central Florida area came together. It was just able to do that for the athletes because, yes, it was a horrible reason that we had to pull it off because the people in Panama City Beach, the last thing they needed to worry about was having a bunch of athletes come to their community. They had no electricity. But these athletes had to train for like a year. So, you know, it's not as catastrophic for them, but yet you think about the time they sacrificed, so they were thrilled that Haines City was able to do this for them. And they were thrilled to be able to come, another 7-hour drive to another location. But Haines City pulled it off, sports marketing, you guys, everybody did a fantastic job.
And I think it's a great point when you mention the community aspect of it, because that's a lot of volunteers when you have a full year to work on getting volunteers. It's just a testament to Polk County and the community that this is and why people want to come live here, because everybody's like, hey, yeah, absolutely. If we can do this to help, in a way, Panama City Beach, take this off their plate so they could focus on recovery, you're absolutely right. And as bad as it got in that 2.5 weeks of trying to ensure that everything that was covered, you were also able to sit back and go, okay, wait, there's greater problems at play here, you know, what these folks are dealing with. But when you talk, of course, Ironman will be back in Polk County April 18th. Up there in Haines City. But talk about, of course, you're local here, you're from the Haines City area and you've competed. Talk about the training aspect and then the competition aspect. You alluded to it a minute ago about the amount of time that goes into training for such an event. Not only is it important to Polk County to host an event like this and the economic impact, but it's also important just to have the event. And with the COVID and everything that we have going on, talk about the training that goes into it.
Well, that's tricky because you have the different distances. So obviously the one in Haines City is what they consider the half triathlon, which half full, which is 70.3. So you have 3 disciplines. You have to practice with the swim, you have to practice with the run, you have to practice with the biking. And there's actually a 4th one, which is nutrition, which you have no idea how important that part is when you get to those distances. For the shorter distance, not so much, but the longer ones, yeah, because if you eat the wrong food, you're not going to have a good run because you might be spending more time in the portalette. But as far as the half, it depends on everybody's age, their experience and whatnot. It could be 20 weeks training, it could be 15 weeks, 16 weeks. But generally, the average person takes about 20 weeks to train for the half. And the challenge for a lot of people is the swim part of it, because a lot of people don't have places to go to swim 1.2 miles to practice. Especially this past year with COVID, a lot of the pools were shut down. All I'm talking more so in the country. You got to figure up north, they can't get in the lakes up north. And so the pools that were indoor pools, a lot of them are coming to this race without a lot of swimming practice. So that is a challenge for them. This particular race we're having was deferred from last year. So the athletes that practiced for last year were told a month beforehand, this is canceled. So then they deferred it to December. And so they continued training on to keep their fitness level to a certain level, and then ramped it up again probably in November to be ready for December. And then that was canceled 3 weeks again before the race, because that's when we had that big surge in the numbers and it wasn't safe. So naturally you can feel the letdown for those athletes and then have to vamp it back up probably somewhere between January is when most people vamped it back up. So a lot of people have been training for well over a year for this particular event.
And part of the event this year, one of the differences from this year from previous ones is COVID protocols. So they're trying to have less folks come out and observe, for example.
Yeah,
So,
for the safety, the spectators that normally would be there for, they have a chute in Haines City, and I'm, you know, like a running chute for spectators to sit there and help people get through it, which is a lot of help, by the way, for the athletes. So it'll be a challenge for the athletes in that respect, not having the people cheering them on. But in the venue area itself, it's just not safe having that many people close together. Throughout the route, especially like in the bike route, there can be isolated people, you know, standing on the side of the road or even on the run in that respect. But they're still trying to make it very safe for the athletes and for the spectators too, to not be at the venue itself. And then the protocols for the athletes is very different this year than in normal years, as far as we do not have body markings. We won't have body markings because that takes another individual putting it on you. We will not have people helping us take off our wetsuits, which for me is a huge challenge. You lose 5 minutes just on pulling off my wetsuit. So I'm practicing that more than anything else right now.
Well, because you're exhausted when you get out of the water, and so any assistance will...
Yeah, they're tight, and the body strippers, they can rip them off in 2 seconds. For me, like I said, I'm not kidding, it will put 2 minutes on my time, seriously. But it will everybody else too. So it's an even Steven on us for that front. But the other thing is we'll have masks on before we start the race, and then there's supposed to be about 1,700 athletes for this particular one. So we will be lined up in a very spread out fashion, which will be interesting because the beach is only so long. So that's going to be interesting in itself.
and they'd sort of, a few years back, they went to this sort of a staggered start on the swimming to begin with. That sort of scrum, back to the rugby term, that scrum of swimmers kind of went by the wayside. So they're even going to spread that out
every year.
Yeah.
Some years they do age group startings. One year they tried you self-seating yourself. They really have switched it up different years. This year is what we call the self-seating. You put yourself in line where you think your speed is, and it's hopefully an honorary system as far as that's concerned. And you don't want to be in the front if you're a slow swimmer, because the unique thing about the Haines City venue is most have a loop swim or one end to the other end swim. This is a M, and so there's more turns on this than any other race in Ironman circuit. So the turns make it very challenging, and if you have a lot of swimmers at one time trying to turn these corners, if you're not a strong swimmer, you want to be in the back. You'd want to put yourself in the back.
So I'm going to ask you the question I have always wanted to ask a triathlete. Do you pick the venue according to the topography? So if you don't want to bike up hills, you don't pick Chattanooga, I assume.
Chattanooga's a challenge. Chattanooga's fun. Chattanooga swim is awesome because you go down the Tennessee River. So,
okay.
But yes, the venue is definitely by your aptitude. You want to pick that. I'm smiling because that's my funnest part of the race. Is everybody thinks they're coming to Florida for a flat race.
Yep.
Everybody thinks they're coming to Florida for a flat race. And so when they do the first half of this one in Haines City, which Haines City is relatively flat when you're going through, but when you get to Lake Wells in front of Bach Tower and get on Scenic Highway, I hear a lot of interesting words when they see the steepness of these hills. After the race, that's the first thing we hear from all the athletes that come from all over is I thought Haines City was supposed to be flat.
Yeah, when we were working the full, that was the comment I got handing out bags on the bike route was, where'd the hills come from?
Yeah,
so.
And the same with the run, because the run is on a quite steep hill that you have to hit twice on this particular one. And then the other fun part for me is because I'm a native of the area, so lakes, you're used to alligators and those types of things, and that's always the questions from all the people from all over the world is, are there really alligators in these lakes? And Well, they are, yeah, but they don't bother you. You just don't be first, you don't be
fine.
last.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
That's right. Well, Karen, thank you so much. And you said you are competing in this one, correct?
I am I've been
one
in
coming
training
up?
for this one for a year and 3 months.
Well, good luck, and maybe we can have you back after and talk about the new race with COVID precautions and all that. But we wish you nothing but the best, and we
Thank
appreciate you taking the time to come into Sports Central.
Appreciate
Thank
it. Glad to be here.